voting is now underway in many Illinois counties, and this morning we continue conversations with candidates running in some key races here in the state. Pamela Denise Long, who prefers Denise, is one of 6 candidates pursuing the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate. She is an occupational therapist and much more, who lives downstate near St. Louis and joins me now live. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm happy to be here.
I appreciate, your time. We always do. Let me start by, pointing out this is the first time you've run for a political office. And on your webpage, you say you became a Republican in 2008, which suggests to me that there was some sort of change or journey involved in that. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so I skipped to my polling place when I became 18, the first time I could vote. I didn't become politically conscious, thinking about the political values that I wanted to consciously express until 2008, when I officially joined the Republican Party. I had some concerns about some of the Obama rhetoric about love who you love. My question was absolutely, but what are the boundaries around that? And I think now we're seeing some of the push has no boundaries. We have academics like myself saying that minor attracted persons is just a sexual preference that we're going to have to accept, and I say no to that.
Okay. At a debate at U Chicago last night, you told the audience that you support President Donald Trump's America First agenda, but suggested that you supported some changes to the administration's immigration enforcement campaign. Can you elaborate on that?
I think we had a lot of social capital as Republicans and those interested in immigration moderation because of how many people came into the nation and how and what it looked like. I think we've lost some of that social capital because of how officers have engaged with citizens, the faces being covered and the like, and that needs to change.
Is that the only change you think that needs to occur in terms of, the for lack of a better word, tactics being used, other than the face mask? Do you think due process needs to be?
Absolutely. I think part of due process is knowing the officer that you're interacting with, and I think what Congress needs to do, since it was congressional laws that were violated during Biden's admin, is look at what due process looks like for 10 to 20 million illegal aliens who are not supposed to be here.
You also state on your webpage that you want to support the Trump agenda to defund sanctuary states and cities. Of course, Illinois and Chicago are in that category. If you're elected to the Senate, couldn't that potentially harm the state and the city that you would be elected to represent? Obviously, it's the whole state, but also the city of Chicago, because that's very much an obvious sanctuary city.
Yeah, I think that's a choice that the city of Chicago has made. It's a home rule city. It doesn't have to accept illegal aliens, and yet it is. Even though Black Americans and other Americans, Chicagoans, have told them that enough is enough. They don't feel safe in their communities. They had been harassed. They're not getting the resources. Much of the social safety net had been diverted to illegal aliens. So the idea is to incentivize states and cities like Chicago to focus on their own citizens and stop diverting resources to others.
So do you support defunding them, though? Like, for instance, there's a TRO now, but yesterday the White House stopped millions of dollars in funding to Illinois and other Democratic-led states that would support HIV prevention and family planning programs. Would you support that sort of defunding?
I think there are many ways that we have discretionary funding. We should certainly not deprive people of food, for example, but there are some ways in which we should look at which parts of that we can defund, which parts can we work with cities and states to make sure that they are focusing on their own citizens. I think we cannot have a situation where the city or state is continuing to tax citizens while giving, a red carpet and freebies to people who've put no equity into the nation.
One of the topics of conversation when it comes to the Republican Party right now is often, are you a MAGA Republican or are you not necessarily a, quote, MAGA Republican? Are you a MAGA Republican?
I'm an Americans First Republican, and I think every American citizen should be an Americans First citizen. And what that means for me is that the people who've put equity into this nation, who've lived here in this nation, should be placed first in terms of resource allocation, in terms of developmental resources, and the like.
Okay, Dr. Pamela Denise Long, we're out of time, but thank you for joining me live and sharing some of your viewpoints, and good luck in the race.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. We have reached out to other candidates on both sides of the aisle running in this race. On the Democratic side, we'll speak with Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton at the end of the month.